Hello and welcome to my Star Wars film. I've had a few failed attempts before submitting videos to YouTube based on Star Wars and other science fiction related films, but I haven't been very successful. I kind of tried to emulate the likes of Mr. Plinkett, Mr. Sunday Movies, The Nostalgia Critic and the awesome Emergency Awesome, but I seem to have failed quite miserably. I'm hoping that this time I have a little bit more success. This film is not necessarily a review of the Star Wars films, it's more an insight as to why I'm such a massive fan and why it's had such an impact on my life, both a positive and a negative impact.
This is very, very bad.
So just how big a Star Wars fan am I? You may be wondering by now. Well, take a look at these photos of my office. As you'll see, I absolutely love Star Wars. I was born in 1973 and I was only 4 years old when I first see Star Wars at the cinema in 1977. December 1977, not May, as it was released sometime later in the UK. My grandmother had taken me, my two elder brothers and my twin sister. Yes, I've got a twin sister. I'm that much into Star Wars, I'm just like Luke Skywalker, I have a twin sister. We was originally supposed to go and see a Spider-Man movie, which evidently is not very good. There wasn't enough seats, surprisingly, so we went to see Star Wars instead, despite my grandmother's fears that Darth Vader may scare me. Now, I'm not going to pretend that at 4 years old I understood fully what was going on in Star Wars. I knew that there was lots of spaceships, which I loved. I knew that there was explosions and gunfire. They weren't normal guns, they were blasters, laser guns, as you might have called them as a child. There was a very tall man all dressed in black, and there was lots of soldiers dressed in white. That's about all I took away from it when first watching it. From that day onwards, Star Wars was always on my mind. It took a long time though for the figures and the toys to become available. If you're a true fan, and I'm guessing you've got to be a true fan if you're still watching this video, you had to wait until 1978, and even then at Christmas all you could get was the early bird certificate package. You couldn't actually get any figures whatsoever. Eventually the toys became available in the shops. They were made by Palitoy in the UK, not by Kenner, as in the USA. And the first figure I bought was R5-D4. I'm not quite sure why I chose this figure. He didn't have a very prominent part in the film. In fact, all R5-D4 ever really done was blow up. From then on, my entire focus was on Star Wars. I got the Star Wars Annual as a birthday present, which I read over and over again, which in fairness gave me a better understanding of the film. I'd only seen it once at the pictures, and it wasn't very often that you got to go and see the film again. There certainly wasn't any DVDs, Blu-rays or even videos in them days. Every couple of weeks, if I behaved myself, my mother would buy me a new figure, and my figure collection was getting bigger and bigger. And eventually I got my first vehicle, which was Luke Skywalker's Landspeeder.
It's the Star Wars Landspeeder.
Wow, looks like it's floating. People are coming. It's up to Luke Skywalker and his Landspeeder to get us out.
Action figures each sold separately. The Landspeeder has a snap-open space hatch, and Star Wars action figures R2-D2 and C-3PO fit right in back.
Hurry, they're fancy. Activate spring glide wheels. The Force goes with us. Yeah.
Kenner's Star Wars Landspeeder. Action figures each sold separately.
I'm actually feeling quite bitter and disappointed about my Landspeeder now. The first reason is that in England we never had a snap-open space hatch on our Landspeeder. It was sealed shut, unless I never opened it for all the years that I played for it, which is pretty unlikely. And the second reason for feeling bitter is that my twin sister that I mentioned earlier happened to snap the back of it within days of me owning it, so it was never quite the same again, and I've never ever forgave her until this day. But don't worry, things got a lot worse with my sister messing around with my Star Wars toys as we got older. So now I'm going to move forward to 1979 and my 6th birthday, when my parents bought me the biggest and best Star Wars toy any boy could ever dream of. Yes, it was the Death Star.
Look at the size of that thing.
Cut the chatter wedge, You rejected Star Wars Episode 7 because it would bore you. Well, you bore me, so fuck off. This thing may have only been made out of cardboard, but it was truly amazing. There was so much to do, so many different things you could muck about with. You could put your figures in any scenario that you wanted. There was a trash compactor with moving parts, even though it was just bits of cardboard that moved. I was fascinated, absolutely fascinated and in love with this toy. My 6th birthday also happened to land on a Saturday, so I didn't have to go to school. I had all day long to play with this toy. On a Saturday afternoon, I used to go around my grandmother's every week without fail. And on the way round, guess what happened? My twin sister, yes, my twin sister I've mentioned 3 times now, happened to grab it in her hand and pull the door off of the trash compactor. I cried. I was a little boy, but I cried like a little girl. And who can blame me? It was the biggest, best toy I've ever received, and within probably 3 hours of having it, she'd broken it just like what she'd done a year or so ago with my land speeder. Contrary to what I said earlier, I don't really hate my sister for it. We were just kids, and I certainly got my revenge on her Barbie dolls. With a little help from my mum and a roll of sellotape, the Death Star was repaired and fully operational once again.
This fully armed and operational battle station.
I played for this toy for years and years and years until it was pretty much falling apart. I can vaguely remember it going in the bin, something really foolish really, because even in the condition that it was in, by the time I'd finished playing with it, it's probably worth quite a bit of money nowadays. Sending the Death Star to the dustbin was not the worst mistake I made with regard to getting rid of or selling my vintage Star Wars collection. I will explain this later. With 1980 approaching and the much anticipated sequel The Empire Strikes Back due out in May, I'd only actually seen the Star Wars film twice. As I said earlier, over the years I've got my greatest understanding of the storyline from the Star Wars annual, which thankfully my sister had not managed to destroy. I was 6 years old when The Empire Strikes Back was released. I was so excited the night before going to see it, I could have wet the bed. In fact, I probably did wet the bed. Unlike nowadays with the internet, you've got trailers galore, spoilers galore, adverts and TV spots galore. There was very little information to go on before going in to see the film. Don't get me wrong, the internet is amazing, it's changed the world, there's no denying that. Just ask my grandmother. She's 115 years old. But certain films actually ruin everything for you before you even go to the cinema. Some really bad examples are Terminator Genesis.
What are you doing? John!
What have they done to my son?
Forget your son. The film is ruined. Get back to the cutting room! Terminator Salvation.
I'm the only hope you have.
I don't know what it is with these bloody Terminator films. Batman vs Superman is one of the worst examples of giving the whole storyline away during the trailer. Watch these screenshots. They give away the entire plot of the film. I hate this film. I love Batman and Superman, but I hate this film. This is probably best addressed during another video, but I hate this film. Batman vs Superman Dawn of Justice, more like Batman vs Superman Dawn of Bullshit! Apart from Wonder Woman though, Wonder Woman is super, super hot. I love Wonder Woman. Her new film is amazing. Gal Gadot is amazing. Wonder Woman, mwah, I love you. You are amazing.
What are you doing?
I'm making a Star Wars video.
No, you're not. You're perving over pictures of Wonder Woman again.
No, I'm not. I'm making a Star Wars video.
What's Wonder Woman got to do with Star Wars?
Well, she ain't got nothing to do with Star Wars, but let me explain.
I don't explain. You can sleep on the sofa tonight.
Sorry about the interruption. Back to The Empire Strikes Back. Who could have predicted that this movie could surpass the mighty Star Wars? Sequels that are an improvement on the original film were pretty unheard of at the time. In fact, I can only think of one exception to that rule.
You don't come to Las Vegas and talk to a man like Mo Green like that!
Even George Lucas wasn't sure how successful Star Wars was going to be. He'd already commissioned Alan Dean Foster to write Splinter of a Mind's Eye with a view to turning it into a made-for-TV movie with very little special effects and very little Han Solo, as Harrison Ford had not signed on to do any prequels at the time. I wonder what that would have been like, because the other two made-for-TV Star Wars movies that I know were not exactly very bloody good. Now, talking of George Lucas, I don't hate the man like some of the fanboys claim to. All of this George Lucas ruined my childhood nonsense is complete and utter claptrap. Firstly, any Star Wars fan of my generation should adore George Lucas. Without him, you wouldn't have had the memories of the films and the toys that this video relates to. And secondly, if you were in your mid-20s when the prequels came out, how can you claim that your childhood was ruined? Your childhood was years ago, during the days of flares, big collars and Ford Cortinas. George Lucas created Star Wars, and I thank him for that. I do, however, firmly believe that the success of The Empire Strikes Back was a team effort. George Lucas is not a god. He didn't do this on his own. If George Lucas had directed The Empire Strikes Back, we'd have got a completely different movie. Younger generations probably don't even realise that George Lucas didn't direct all of the Star Wars films. Having George Lucas's former mentor, Irving Kershner, direct The Empire Strikes Back was a brilliant move. Gary Kurtz, John Barry, John Williams, Lawrence Kasdan, Ralph McQuarrie, Frank Oz, all deserve a mention because they all helped to create this amazing film. These people helped keep George Lucas in line and in check. Look what happened years later when these influences, with the exception of John Williams, had gone.
I don't like sand.
Not to mention ILM. George Lucas might have created Industrial Light and Magic, but the work they'd done on this film was out of this world. The effects in Star Wars were amazing. The effects in The Empire Strikes Back far surpassed them effects, with just 3 years in between. ILM made you understand the scale, the speed and the endless possibilities of the Star Wars universe. Not only was the film fascinating, the way they made the film become equally fascinating. Tauntauns, Wampers, AT-ATs, Snowtroopers, a sneak peek at the Scout Walkers, ion cannons, rebel transports, bounty hunters, Boba Fett and Slave One, the Emperor, Yoda, Cloud City, Lando, carbon freezing. What more could you ask for? Even C-3PO got blown up in this movie.
Who are you? Who am I? Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I didn't mean to intrude. No, please don't get up.
I don't like C-3PO. I don't like the bloke who plays him, Anthony Daniels. I think he's a bit of an arsehole. Not only was The Empire Strikes Back a truly amazing film, it also gave us one of the biggest plot twists in movie history.
No, I am your father.
When I first heard this line, my first thoughts were, no, that's not true. That's impossible.
Wow, what an ending! Who'd have thought Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father?
Thank you, Mr. Blow the Picture for me.
Dope. Nice one, Homer. Apart from the amazing film, I was just as excited as a 6-year-old boy about the new range of toys that will be available soon in the shops. The saga was certainly continuing. Well, this is the end of the first part of my Star Wars film, and I've barely scratched the surface. I'm going to start working on part 2 soon, and if you want to see more and you enjoyed this video, a few likes down below and maybe a few nice positive comments wouldn't go amiss. So if you want to find out how the Return of the Jedi was spoilt for me, how Star Wars turned me into a thief, yes, a thief, and my thoughts on the special editions and the dreaded prequels, keep an eye out for part 2. Thank you very, very much for watching.